So at the rear of your machine is a good time to go ahead and check your hydraulic fluid. You can inspect your hydraulic fluid levels from outside of the machine. There are two tanks that are behind the door. They are interconnected. They're 18 gallons each. There's another 5 gallons residual in the system for a total of 41 gallons of hydraulic fluid on board. Be aware that these stickers can be a little bit deceiving. If you look, it says full, and at the bottom it says add oil to it. What you want to do is make sure that your machine is shut off on level ground. All your brooms and sweep gear are in a stowed position. Your hopper's down, and then you want to go ahead and look. And you can actually turn the handles on the back and open up the rear door at this point, and you'll see that sight gauge right there is about half full, and that's kind of what we're going for. If both of these gauges on either side are showing no fluid in them at all, if they're bone dry at that point, it's time to go ahead and add fluid. But you don't want to bring it all the way up to that full mark. You just want to add one side or the other enough where you're showing some fluid registering on that gauge. The reason being is as you start the machine up and you engage sweep gear, that oil starts to heat up, expands, and it moves through the system and returns some of that oil to a tank. It's possible to overflow those tanks, and you might start getting some seepage out of your pressurized caps here. Continuing on while we're at the rear of the machine, your DEF fluid tank is located here. Now there is a gauge at the left-hand side of your steering column inside the cab for your fill on this. This is a 5-gallon tank on it, so you just want to keep an eye on that gauge in the cab and add it as needed. When we are going ahead and removing that cap, it's a great idea to wipe that down and clear as much contaminants from around there as possible before opening it up and adding that fluid to it. Reason being is we don't want to get any contaminants in there. These systems are very sensitive and susceptible to any type of contamination there. Also fluids at the rear of the machine. Up top here, you'll notice we do have the fill for the engine oil coolant on there. So it's well labeled, and you can have good visual sight of the level there. And if you do need to add it, you can go ahead and do that at this time as well. Lastly, again, I'll point out here at the rear of the machine for fluids is a chart that tells you all the different types of fluids that are on board that we talked about, what the recommended types are, and the total quantity or total capacity of the fluids on board. So when you are adding fluids to any of the systems on the machine, make sure that you are using fluids that are compatible with what is already on board. And then again, for service techs that are doing preventative maintenance, if they're doing full fluid changeouts, they know in advance how much fluid they need to have on site to do that full fluid changeout. Continuing on at the rear of the machine while we're here and we have the door open, I'll just point out we do have 2 safety switches back here that will keep that engine shut off. So as you're back here doing any type of inspection work, topping fluids off on the back, nobody can go ahead and accidentally turn the engine on and create an issue for you while you're working back here. I'll point out you've got a nice little lever right here on the side of your hydraulic oil cooler. If you go ahead and raise that up, you can release that latch. This swings open and actually has a little brace up here that will hold this hydraulic oil cooler open for you and give you that 360-degree access to your engine. Okay? This oil cooler is obviously cooling your hydraulic oil fluid. The radiator for the machine is at the front of the machine. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's imperative that you clean this out on a daily basis, okay? It's not only hydraulic fluid that's maintaining all of your sweep functions, but it's also a hydrostatic drive system. So keeping that fluid nice and cool is critical, and the best way to do that is to clean that radiator or the hydraulic oil cooler out on a daily basis, either with an air hose or you can flush it out with water. Just want to be careful if you're using any type of high pressure water on it that we don't accidentally bend any of the fins on that cooler itself. I'll point out here, you'll notice that the fan is pulling fresh air from the front of the machine through the back of the cooler itself. So you just want to make sure that you're not getting any material built up on there, and everything's cleared out on the inside of your radiator as well. You also have your belts here for your engine. You can go ahead and just kind of check that tension while you're back here on those belts, and make sure that that those are adjusted properly as well. Moving forward, we'll point out the strainer for your water system is located here. Especially when the machine is new, it's a good idea to check this on a regular basis. You can go ahead and unscrew this screen, this cover, and remove the screen and just do a little visual inspection. When the machines are brand new, sometimes you'll notice you'll get a little poly shaving in there, so certainly want to check that on a daily basis when you first are putting the machine in service, and then once you've done that for a couple of weeks, on a weekly basis for sure you want to remove that. I'll just point out there's a little gasket in here. We want to make sure that that gasket remains inside that cover. It creates a nice seal and doesn't allow us to pull any air around the seams and potentially get airlocks in our water spray system. We'll go ahead and reinstall that. Close up the hydraulic oil cooler. Back here as well, we have our air filter for the engine. Not a bad idea on a daily basis to go ahead and pinch this rubber gasket at the bottom here and get any type of dust or dirt that's building up. As material does build up on it, you can remove the cover. There's 2 air filters in there. We recommend changing those per the engine manufacturer's specifications on that. And then lastly, I'll point out you've got your water pump. You have a manual purge on your water pumps back here. Okay, so we have twin diaphragm electric water pumps on there. If you do want to just do an inspection of your water system, you can always hit that switch. And if you want to winterize the machine or remove all the water from the pumps for any reason, you can go ahead, drain off your water, open up your ball valves and spray nozzles, and use this manual purge system to remove any water from the system.